Hey there, everybody. I think we got everything sorted out here. Welcome to Way of the Dad Live, stream number 2. Uh, I very much imagined that I would have done more live streams by now, but between working on the Way of the Dad Live Studios, uh, Spaceship, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I saw this background and I just really liked it. So, um, yeah, I don't know what's going on with my spaceship. There's obviously no one steering, so it looks like we're about to crash into planet Earth any minute now. Burn up in the atmosphere. So yeah, but uh, considering how how I been working on the studio here, it is a lot warmer in here right now, which is nice. Um, and it'll actually hold the heat because it's got insulation in it now, so that's good. And so yeah, I've been doing a little more Bengals streaming lately. And I kind of thought I would have done a few more movie streams by now. But uh, best day to do that was yesterday. Second best day is to do it today. So we are going to do a little uh, Halloween theme, if you will. A couple things I've seen recently that were worth talking about. And these two, generally speaking, in a good way, which is nice because if you are aware of the podcast before I went converted more to video, I was doing an audio, just mostly audio with the podcasting software would create a static image video and would upload it to my YouTube channel, but I hadn't went to a video style format yet. Um, I've had my ups and downs with Marvel and um, a lot of movies in general, and DC's been it's been a different kind of a mess, and Star Wars. So basically, a lot of things under Disney I've had a lot of issues with lately, especially with the quality of the writing, the structure. Just some of it just seems very um, elementary, not in a good way either. Very juvenile and shallow. And I'm not saying that the Marvel movies leading up to Endgame were all the best that Christopher Nolan and Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino and I don't know, just name big name director who generally gets a lot of a lot of awards for amazing script writing and depth and all that stuff. Um, they weren't all that, but they were fun and they were well written. And there was, in retrospect, after you watched it, you could look back and go, "Oh, I see the plan. I understand what they were going for now." And it was a well laid plan and generally well executed. Very few missteps, at least nothing major. Maybe save for one. But so it's nice to be able to talk about something that I want to talk about, that I actually more or less enjoyed. Doesn't mean anything's perfect, but I actually like them. They're actually fun. And I'm not a big scary movie person, mostly because I find a lot of scary movies are rarely scary. And I say that because um, some of them are very gory, and some of them do get cheap jump scares, but like my 13-year-old daughter can get a jump scare. That doesn't make her scary, if you get my drift. Um, and then some are just, they're kind of so bad they're good. So they're supposed to be scary movies, but they end up being, kind of comedic. And so I'm not a big, I'm not a big Halloween scary movie fan. Um, I mean, my scary movies back in the day were Nightmare on Elm Street. Uh, I'd like to point out Jason movies, but by the time I really picked them up, they become kind of comedic in their own right. Jason Part 6 was the first one I ever remember seeing, and that was kind of a joke. I mean, other than the guy looked scary and it seemed like nothing killed him. And of course, they just kept leaning into the joke and leaning into the ridiculousness more and more every time. Um, what else was scary? Hellraiser. Yeah, that was properly unnerving. Um, and I've recently went out of my way to scour and find all of the Hellraiser movies, and I might talk about them at some point. They've kind of been talked to death. I have not seen the new Hellraiser movie. There's a movie on Hulu. I haven't seen that yet. I've heard it's pretty decent, but it's got its high points and low points, and whatever. Um, a movie I should talk about at some point. I've got one in mind. It's definitely high on my list of movies that scared me. Was Event Horizon, and the funny thing is it didn't scare me in the theater, but it just scared the living crap out of me at home later, like watching it totally later. Um, I remember it being very unnerving then, and I don't know why it didn't bother me as much in the theater as it did later on at home. Maybe it's just dark room, quiet room, you know, and it's an eerie movie in its own right. But the Saw movies, I don't really. I know they fit in with the horror movie genre, but it's more horror as in like body horror, gore horror, things like that. And the thing where you see someone hurting themselves to get out of a trap, and you can feel that kind of pain, you can empathize with that kind of pain, but that doesn't make it scary. Um, Poltergeist, properly scary movie. Um, so I'm not a big scary movie fan. Um, it's not. It's never been my biggest thing. But kind of by just by chance, I've ended up seeing a couple movies that definitely fall within um the Halloween theme, the Halloween season, if that's what you want to call it, and they definitely fit. So, okay, let's see here. I'll do a little bit of this real quick. Ring the bell one more time before I get down into it. Okay. All right. So, let's do this properly. What do I got tonight, ladies and gentlemen? I have a Yingling. Let's get that light out of there. There we go. A Yingling Hershey's Chocolate Porter. And so we've got a beer from Pottsville, Pennsylvania, and the chocolate company from Hershey, Pennsylvania, doing a little. It's a seasonal thing. Haven't had it since last year. It's a seasonal release, like I said, and it's one I rather like. Um, it is a little heavy on the chocolate, if that's not your thing. Oh, let's listen to that. Mmm. There we go. And a little bit left in the bottle to top it off when she settles down. Um. Okay. So let's get into it. And which one are we going to talk about first? Let's talk about the one that's a little more fun first. And that would be Werewolf by Night. Um, so uh, if anybody's been bothering to follow along, like I had alluded to before, I've had a lot of, well, let's just say I haven't had a lot nice to say about um, Marvel and Lucasfilm, basically productions out of Disney. Um, Mostly since Endgame. There's been a lot of misses, very few hits. We say the good, bad, and the ugly. There's been a little good, a lot of bad, and a fair amount ugly. And feel like they're trending in the wrong direction. And a lot of people get it misconstrued and think it has something to do with diversity or representation. And it's not about that. There are movies that can do that really well, but they just don't need to shove it down your throat and smack you in the face with it the whole time because they actually have a good script. And it's amazing how when there's a good movie with good script and good acting and good directing, all that other stuff isn't doesn't need to be there. It doesn't even show up to the watcher, to the moviegoer, to the viewer. And so, you know, I haven't really enjoyed much, and I do plan to talk about a couple things I've seen that I've kind of been avoiding seeing, or purposely just looked at it and I was like, nah, I'm not into that. But by chance I did see them, and so I'll talk about them later. But what I want to focus on right now is something that was surprisingly good. Just really, really surprisingly good. And um, Werewolf by Night is it's a special event or whatever they want to call it. Um, Special presentation, sorry. And it is directed by, and I'm probably going to butcher this and I apologize. Michael Giacchino or Giacchino, I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation. Who is someone you might recognize if you pay attention to Marvel. You might recognize his name if you actually do pay attention to some of the opening and closing credits. He's known as a composer, but I guess he always had the story that I'm under the impression of is he always really wanted to direct, and that's really where a passion of his was. But certain things happened, and they kind of led him into composing because he's also pretty passionate about that. And so this was his chance to take the reins and do a test, I guess let him see what he can do with, a certain budget. And I'll say, it's really good. It is a fun watch. It is done, as you can see, the backgrounds behind me here, virtually behind me. It is done in that old monster movie style of filmmaking, the old Mummy and the old Dracula and Frankenstein movies, black and white. It does look pretty grainy, and but it has that clarity that old film can't quite provide, but it's not too clear. So it doesn't, it looks properly like a movie that was, that they purposely blurred it just enough so that it doesn't look like it's something digital, a 4K camera that's just been put in grayscale. It has enough depth and context and detail so that it does look very, very good. Doesn't look like, a film camera from the 50s. But it also doesn't look too good that it distracts you from the feel. It leaves just enough of that graininess and that soft texture to make it feel old. And I think it's really good. Um, it's about an hour, just a smidge over, if I remember correctly. I think the credits take it over an hour, and it's well done because it has a tight window. It needs to tell a very specific story, properly introduce you to a couple characters, and no offense, but get down to business. And it does its job really well. It's very tight. Um, there's saying is there's no fat on the bone here. And it really doesn't waste its time getting down to the point. It doesn't hurry it, but it doesn't screw around either. And that's something that definitely could be a valid criticism of a lot of the MCU Plus, or I'm sorry, the Disney Plus shows, MCU shows on Disney Plus. Some of them are just quite frankly downright boring. Some of them have so much filler, like, and I know that their whole goal was to make a lot of these shows cinema quality, but set up for TV. Well, the problem is it almost seems like they've got the wrong kind of writers from a structure perspective. This isn't a quality thing. This is a structure perspective I'm talking about. And, you can't write a show like you write a movie. Movies are different. They're structured differently and for good reason. But TV shows, you can't have, every now and then you'll see an episode that feels like they definitely decided to just, hey, let's just go have fun real quick. And we have this long season, so we're gonna do this one episode where we just kind of take a step away from the main characters and storyline and everything, and we take our main characters and we just do something goofy with them, a Halloween special or something like that. And then the next episode, right back on track, we're right back on plan. That's okay because at least that episode is not trying to fool you into thinking that it's doing something when nothing's happening. And some of these MCU shows feel very ponderous. They either can't get started off right or they can't end well. It's almost like and I've said this before, they were like, they woke up and, like almost freaked out because they realized, oh crap, we only have one episode left. We got to hurry up. Just cram it all in. And you just get these weird punch up scenes like in WandaVision, things like that. Um, so this has a job to do in an hour, and it does it really, really well. And I was really impressed with it. It effectively and quickly tells you more or less who everybody is, at least mostly up front. We got Gael Garcia Bernal as I never realized his name in the show is Jack Russell, and it makes me think Terrier. Sorry, but and Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone. Those are the two biggest ones you really need to take away from the show. They are the two primary characters. Although I will say, for a switch, this show is called Werewolf by Night, and it's actually about Werewolf by Night. It's not about She Werewolf by Night or where it's the new young more diverse person taking over for the old male lead or whatever. None of that. And it's also not taken over by Elsa Bloodstone. who is, I mean, she's good in this. Now, I'm definitely not an expert on her at all, or her character. Sorry, Elsa Bloodstone's character or Werewolf by Night. They weren't quite in my purview. I did when I collected comics. I did get into the Blade and the Ghost Rider stuff. Very little Moon Knight. Mostly the Ghost Rider and Blade stuff on the say the more supernatural side of things, and a little bit of Darkhawk. I did like Darkhawk. Um, Kim, I haven't watched this yet. You should. And like I said, the writing is very tight. It does a lot with um, it doesn't do the thing where Marvel's been doing lately, where it almost seems like when they are in a bit of a writing quandary, like what do we do? And someone just in the corner goes, throw in another joke, ha ha ha, and they're like, yeah, that's fine, let's throw in another joke. They don't resort to jokes just to fill the 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 quiet. This movie has its quiet points, and it serves to create that tension. Um, I've just really, really enjoyed this movie. I'm trying to decide how much spoiler I want to get into. Although um, I don't know to say that there's any excessive spoilers here. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, I'm not saying you've seen the movie, but you kind of have an idea of what it is. But I will say the action's pretty good. And one of the things that really surprised me is, and I'm hoping this is uh, uh, a good, I'm hoping this is a good omen or a good precursor to things to come with Marvel, um, because they actually had some gore in this. Surprising. They actually had some surprising violence in this. Now, of course, they can get away with that because there's no red blood. Which, for all of you people out there who don't know how the ratings work and why, you watch a movie and you're like, man, that's PG-13? Barely. Or why is that rated R? It didn't feel like a rated R movie. So there's a very fine line, and and sometimes it's as simple and stupid as if you say the F word more than once, rated R, boom, stamp, done, over. I mean, that's it. That's all it takes. Um, you can have as much violence as you want in your PG-13 movie as long as there is no excessive amounts of, as long as there's no gore, okay? And as long as there is no flowing blood. So you can have a little bit of blood stain on the shirt, maybe even a couple, some scratches and scars. As long as they're all, they're all stop bleeding by now. We're good. You can have all that. God help you if there's just blood, running out or running down the side of your face. Nope. R. Done. And then of course the obvious one is nudity. That'll push you to an R rating real quick, unless it's apparently Chris Hemsworth's ass. I mean, really. That's cool. Okay. Just things I will never unsee. Anyway, um so but this movie actually oh, Kim. Boo, no red blood. Yep. But there is blood. It's just in black and white. And but I will say they did things that I'm not used to seeing a Marvel production do. They were bold, inventive. They took a genre. And this is something they used to do with the Captain America movies. At least Winter Soldier. They took a genre, okay? And then they adapted it to a movie they wanted to make already that already had certain plot threads and story points that must be achieved to serve this movie and the overall arcing narrative. And they did that great. Captain America Winter Soldier is very much, I'm not saying it's as good, but it's very much in the vein of um, a spy thriller, like a 70s spy thriller. And so that's good. Um, yes, Kim. Yes. Black and white blood. Just like watching 70s movie. Really? They had color in the 70s, Kim. They had color back then. Go back to the 50s and the 40s. Jeez. Really? Anyway. Yes. So, um, but they were bold. They took some risks and took that format that they wanted and applied it to a movie they already knew they were going to make. And it worked out really well. Of course, the Russo's brothers are really, really good. I mean, it wouldn't be if I did a, best Marvel movies to worst or worst to best type thing. You can bet your ass the Russo brothers movies are going to be near the top. Think about it. The four they made, they're all really, really good. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're really, really good. And it's because of the writing. Yeah, every now and then you get a little janky CGI, you get a little, whatever, this, that, or the other. But there's the writing, the story, the craft, the setup, and everything works really well. And that's what happened here. Um, and I know, what was it? A heist style movie. That was like Ant-Man, right? Um, well, here they took the old Mummy movies, the old monster movies, and they took that aesthetic, they applied it very, very, very well. And make no mistake, Werewolf by Night, Elsa Bloodstone, Man Thing. These are all characters that are going to be important later. They're going to show up for one reason or another. I don't know if they're trying to work towards a Midnight Suns. I know they're trying to get Blade off the ground, although I heard recently that they had to delay that because they lost their director or they fired him, one or the other. Don't always believe the official release, press release. And so I know they want to get Blade out there, and there's been a lot of rumors, and they've been pushing for Ghost Rider for a while. They either haven't figured it out, haven't worn down whoever it is they're trying to sign for whichever Johnny Blaze, or I don't think they want to go back. Gabriel Luna, or was it Gabriel Luna? Um, let's see. Agents of Shield. Ghost Rider was on that. Oh crap! There we go. Well, anyway, they had a version of Ghost Rider. It was the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. That's what I was looking for. On Agents of Shield. I don't think they plan to go back to that. I think they want to go to a Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider. But right now, I don't know. They either don't have him signed up or they don't want to let the cat out of the bag. So maybe they're trying to get to a Midnight Suns or Sons of Vengeance type thing where they can go more towards the supernatural. And maybe that's where Doctor Strange can start playing in that particular realm. Or maybe they keep him more in the multiverse side of things. I don't know. But when you watch this, you can also do something that you can't do with a lot of Marvel products. excuse me, which is watch it and that's it. It's its own thing. It doesn't automatically or distinctly link to anything else. It stands on its own 2 feet. Now, eventually it'll link into something, sure, but that's a little refreshing too. It's not tied to anything else. It it doesn't. You don't have to have watched 12 other fucking movies to know what's going on here and to understand this. This is its own thing and can be watched on its own. So I find that to be actually pretty nice, and pretty refreshing. It'll be okay, Kim. It'll be okay. It only looks old. It's not actually old. It'll be fine, I promise. um so the music is really well done in this. Of course, Michael I hate saying his name because I don't know how to pronounce it right. Um Michael Giacchino or Giacchino or Giacchino. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. He did the music as well, and so it makes sense that the music really follows the shots because he did the directing and he did the score. And it really does evoke those vibes of those old monster horror movies. Um, and it was just really refreshing to watch because it doesn't use cheap humor to fill the gaps. Sometimes it lets silence do the job. Lets silence tell the story. It doesn't get quiet for very long. It's not that long of a feature, but I was very impressed by this. Um, this might be the most just pure, simple fun I've had with something from Marvel. Gosh, um, I don't know. Somewhere in Phase 3, I'd have to look back and think of a movie that just was just pure fun. I guess I would say maybe just pure fun since the original Ant-Man. Um, because that movie is just a kind of a pure fun movie. That's why it's never going to be my favorite movie, because it doesn't have a lot of weight to it and a lot of stakes that feel very serious. But it also is not meant to be, and it's also not using humor incorrectly or at the wrong times. It's a genuinely fun movie to watch, which is amazing considering its production history with losing Edgar Wright and as bad as it could have been, it actually was a quite enjoyable movie, and this was too. So I don't know. You guys want a number out of me? I'd say it's a good 8 to 8.5 out of 10. It's just fun. There's no, you know, I didn't get any vibes of like being, you know, super, I don't know, woke or whatever word you want to use. I don't care. It didn't feel like it was trying to shove any particular type of message down your throat. It's just a story. And a story told because it's a good story. And that's pretty refreshing. So, very much enjoyed that. And, oh gosh, I'm back on my spaceship again. Just teleported. So, I am getting closer to, I do have some actual background behind me, but it's highly unfinished. And I've got to see, I've got to figure out my camera spacing and all that stuff. I have to make my desk so that I can figure out, like right now, I'm just on a temporary table that I'm using as a desk. And I want to get that set up so that I can get I've got one of those multi arm, boom arm things, so I can put my camera and my lighting on it and everything else. And yeah, it'd be nice to be able to just have a real legit background. I can park my spaceship, over at the, over the, U store its space down the street. right next to the RVs and the people's boats that they don't have room in the driveways. I'll just park my spaceship over there. So, um, alrighty. All right, so let's get into the much more serious. um, with a smile. That's a bad pun on my part, but I didn't have anything better at the moment. Um, so Smile. This was I I wasn't sure about this movie going in. I'd heard some good, some bad about it. Not really bad like oh god, it was terrible. It's just it was some people are kind of writing it off like typical, Halloween time horror movie, whatever. It's fine. Um Look at this shit right here. Look at that. It's creepy as shit. And it is. It's genuinely creepy. This is a genuinely creepy movie. I am not saying it is the best horror movie ever made. I don't even know if I am qualified to talk about that. I do know what gets under my skin and makes me properly feel unnerved. Um, I do know what makes me feel properly um I don't want to say spooked, but it makes me uptight. It properly gets to me, and it's not just because ooh they're playing the right little tone of music or whatever, but it actually is fucking creepy. And this movie actually does a really good job of this. I'm not a big horror movie fan. I never have been. And like I said earlier in the beginning, I just find some of them to be kind of cheap, looking for cheap jump scares, you know. Um, so we go into this movie and I it seems like it's doing at least okay. It's doing pretty well. I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes releasing a horror movie in around Halloween time is you're going to get some traction just for the people who just want to go see gore and body horror and I don't know, jump scare fests. Um, this movie sets a very properly disturbing and unsettling tone, which can be hard to do because sometimes it's so transparent. Sometimes they rely just on music, um, that little tone in the background that slowly rises, and then boom. Um, this doesn't do that. At least it doesn't do it in a way that's designed to be cheap. It The acting is pretty good. Um, Considering I'm really unfamiliar with virtually all of these actors. Maybe except one who I've seen in some TV stuff, which usually that tells you like, oh my gosh, this movie's not going to be very good. They've got no-namers in there. Look, they may or may not be no-namers, but I'm not familiar with them very well. But I will say, I thought everybody that was truly featured did actually a really good job. I mean, really did. And I mean, yeah, here we go with this one here, right there. Yeah, look at that shit. Yeah, just imagine you're losing your mind. And you see someone doing that to you. That's unnerving. That'll gotta be kidding me. Um, so the setup is basically uh, this lady sees someone commit suicide right in front of her in a pretty gruesome and horrific way. But the lady's smiling, and this smile, you can call it a contagion of sorts. it passes from the person who committed suicide to the person who witnessed it. And now it's a race against time, as she tries to figure out what's going on, and is she losing her mind? Is this real, or is she just losing her mind? Um, but I will say the depth of, and I'm going to get into some spoilers. So I hope you don't. I hope you've either seen this or don't care about spoilers. But I am going to get into some spoilers here because I kind of have to talk about why I think the movie is so good. So I hope you don't click away, or at least click away. If you do, come back, please. Um, there is I'm going to still try to stay somewhat vague here. I'm not going to go blatant, but I am going to give a little context. There is a theme underlying this movie, with our main character, Rose, and there's a theme of a history of um, mental, um, psychological issues. Let's go with that. Um, she has a history with her mother, um, and her mother dying with her at a really young age, and mental health and psychological issues and things like that. And it's a fantastic way to blend together the two things. So we have this person who has this background in history, and some people know it. You know, they know that she has this background in history. And then she has this other thing that is totally unrelated to that happening to her, and these two things compound on each other in a really, really well written and executed way. I really enjoy. Yes, Kim. Ha. Yeah, a fantastic acting. And I agree. I very much agree. She did a good job. And that probably comes down to directing too. I think the director did a good job. Had a plan, understood how to write this, and um, tease this out. It never overplayed um a particular moment too much, and the mental health aspect didn't get played to a funny degree. It also didn't get played far beyond what you would know to be, I mean, that'd be a legitimately reasonable reaction by other people. And that's where it's really beautiful. Um, because a lot of movies tend to just try to cheaply write themselves out of a corner. And where this feels like it was definitely, and I'm sure it was refined, I'm sure the rough draft and the final draft of the script were not exactly identical, but they really blended these two together well so that her problem seems like her current problem with this smile thing blends perfectly well into what other people would consider to be her problem, which is her history with mental health and her mother and trauma from a very young age and things of that nature that would require you to, probably get counseling. Um, and some of the typical tropes of no one believes me, everybody thinks I'm crazy. I know we've seen that in what virtually every damn uh, Nightmare on Elm Street movie ever made, right? But there's times when it's like that always kind of was a little bit of a joke after a while because it's like, so wait a minute, you have this great relationship with your teenage child, and all of a sudden they're talking about things, and you're just like, oh my god, you're just losing your mind, whatever. And sometimes it made sense, but sometimes it was also kind of like, wait a minute, do you never wonder why all of a sudden they're saying this? Just never consider that, huh? Okay, okay. Well, this one, it makes perfect sense. Why a lot of people don't believe her, why a lot of people just dismiss her, or are ready to call the men in with the white coats and take her to a padded room or whatever the joke was back in the day. Um, so this movie, I usually don't fall for jump scares, but there was a couple in here that I'm going to say were extremely well set up. That you didn't see them coming or hear them or feel them or whatever you want to use. They did a good job with this. They didn't just mail it in with some cheap, parlor tricks and everything. They really thought this through, and they really did a good job of playing this out and bringing it to its conclusion. And there's definitely some twists that you don't see coming, that you don't quite expect, and they're done really, really well. So I really enjoyed this. There we go. So yeah, like a lot of these actors in here, I don't really recognize them, other than maybe Cal Penn, from I think, was that Harold and Kumar? Was he in Harold and Kumar? I think he was, wasn't he? Yeah, Harold and Kumar, and then he was in Van Wilder. That's right, he was in Van Wilder. That movie is it's something. Let's just go with that. But um yeah, I virtually none of these other actors I really recognize. I mean, they might be popular in certain, maybe say like syndicated TV shows, but I don't watch a lot of that, so I just don't see it. And I don't see them. Um, but Rose's Kim, too late to drink bourbon. No, I just really wanted this Yingling chocolate porter. There we go. That's what I'm drinking. Anyway, so it's directed really well. It's properly creepy. It's it's very unsettling. Um, in all the ways that it should be, and not in any ways that feel very cheap or thin or convenient. It is a well written, well directed, well executed movie. And I would probably give this, like, horror movies aren't my thing. I don't find a lot of rewatch value with them. But they this one is quite good. Um, and I'd say it's probably I'd probably put it up there as an 8 out of 10, which is saying something considering I know it was done on a fairly low budget. The low budget doesn't really show, at least not in any obvious way. They use their budget where it counted. And maybe they saved a few bucks on actors that were lesser known, but these actors did a good job. They properly portrayed their characters and in um, believable ways that don't all of a sudden come out of like left field, and like you're like, wait a minute, whoa, just 5 minutes ago you were saying this, now you're okay with it, you know. So no, none of that happens. So I highly recommend Smile, actually. And of course, if you can, go see it in the theater, obviously that's preferable. But if you have a decent, sound system and a really good TV at home, and you can turn off all your lights, and then, if you're not into scary movies, maybe your wife will scare you out of the chair, because that's what happens to me. Mrs. Way of the Dad is the one that usually makes me jump in a scary movie, because the movie didn't make me really so much as her reaction does. Um, oh, really? The doctor, designated survivor. Kim, are you talking about Cal Penn, her boss? I think so. I think that's who you're talking about. Was he in Designated Survivor? Um, where is that Designated Survivor? Yeah, yeah, that's who you're talking about. That's Cal Penn. Yeah, And he's been around. He's done a lot of movies. He's been in and out a lot of things. He's written for a lot of movies too. Um, okay. Question: do you think Smile is in the same vein of It? Um, It, as in Stephen King's It. Do I think Smile's in the same vein of It? Hmm. Um, I would rank It Chapter 1 up there. I have not seen Chapter 2. I probably need to do that. I'm a big fan of, I grew up as a big fan of Stephen King, but I always found a lot of the times the movies were never near as good as the books, not just because that's the rule, but because a lot of directors struggle to capture the horror that he can present on the page. And of course, when you write it on a page, you can't, sometimes you can't just do that on film because it doesn't work that way. The medium is different. The way you have to portray things is different. But It Chapter 1 was really, really good. I really, really liked it. And yes, it is, I would, yeah, yeah, I would go with that. Yeah. I think that Smile and It Chapter 1 are at least on a similar playing field as far as setting a very creepy tone and like an underlying sense of dread and um just like there's that underline that just under the surface angst and terror and dread that's there. And it's not always up in your face, but you kind of know it's hanging around and you know it could be there at any moment and pop out, kind of thing. It Chapter 1 does that very well. I haven't seen It Chapter 2. I need to watch that. Me and Mrs. Way of the Dad need to watch that and get that going. But I have heard by almost everybody that, and then, all the reviews seem that Chapter 2 is nowhere near as good as 1, which is pretty sad. Um, so, but, um, but yeah, and yeah, thank you for that question, Jade. Um, I'd forgotten about It. Might have to go back and watch that. It is Halloween season after all. Maybe start watching some scary movies. Hopefully, Mrs. Way, the dad, doesn't have a billion nightmares. Um, but yeah, I just really like this movie. It was well done. Small budget, but sometimes those restraints, those restrictions, a small budget or maybe a limited scope or whatever, those can create really great things. Sometimes having an unlimited budget and whoever you want and go wherever you want, those don't make great movies because there's no limitation. I was telling I was telling my daughter, and I can't remember why she brought it up. Something about Jaws. She had watched Jaws recently, and she was like, "Wow, that was really good." And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know a big reason why it was so good?" And she didn't know. She goes, "What?" Because she said some. I can't remember what she said exactly. And I said, "Well, that's part of it. There was good writing, and and it was well directed. But a big part of the reason why Jaws is such an effective movie, for especially for its time, was because the animatronic shark wouldn't work most of the time. It was always broken. And if I remember correctly, and obviously if I'm wrong, please someone comment whether in the live stream or after the fact. But the story I had heard, and I'd heard it from what I consider to be a fairly good source or a fairly good place that would know, was because the shark, the mechanical shark wouldn't work very often. It was constantly breaking down. It caused them to have to change the way they went about the movie. So now they had to go out of their way to hide the shark. That's why you only saw the fin a lot of times. And I'm really digging back. I haven't seen Jaws in a long time, but I do remember it. Let's just say I wasn't going and jumping in the ocean for a little while. Um, But that's why you hid the monster, so to speak. The monster wasn't just in your face all the time. It's the reason why the original Predator movie works so well versus The Predator, which was what, 2018? That steaming hot pile of shit isn't scary at all. It's a dumb, goofy, oddball comedy. And now you're just kind of just there to watch the Predator just kill people and, pull spines and, you know, skulls out of, people. Really? Um but yeah, it's and this does that too in a lot of ways. It 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 saves the reveals and the greater levels of understanding that the characters go through, or the discovery, until it's the right time. It doesn't just, just throw it all out there at you. So, um uh do I think there is a second part of this particular movie? There could be, but the problem is Kim, you're asking that question. The problem is it depends on how they do it, because sometimes the thing is scary because you don't know anything about it. And because you never really learn anything about it, that's what makes it terrifying. But when you start to peel back the layers to get to the heart of what's really going on, I mean, would this movie be better in the second, or would this be better in the second movie if you found out, oh, this is a demon who's third in line under Satan, and he's trying to do this to, like, come on, it's like that's where it takes it away. The terror is in the character development. The terror is in the story of the individual character, specifically the main character, and how everybody treats her. And it's a very claustrophobic movie in that way, because I don't think, and I'd have to go back. There is almost no scenes in this movie, if I think about it. There is almost zero scenes in this movie that don't have the main character in it, Rose. And so this is a movie that's almost, without being chintzy, but it's almost shown and told from a single point of view, which is pretty rare now that I think about that. Because I don't remember seeing any scenes. There's a couple scenes that she wasn't initially in, but then she comes into. Um, but almost every single scene is kind of almost told in. Okay. Um, maybe this director has a plan. OBS just like stopped and started right back up. I apologize. Um, maybe this director has a plan for a deeper story, or a continuation of the story somehow. But the thing is you can't shine too much light on the scary thing, because then it becomes by nature less scary. The more you know about the scary thing, the less scary it just naturally becomes. So that's always something you have to be very, very careful with. But good question though. I mean, good question. So, all right. Well, so I'm going to start wrapping things up, but I do want to say a couple things before I get off here. Um, I want to say a massive, massive uh, thank you to whoever is subscribing out there. I have been kind of blown away. Um, I mean, I'm uh, less than 2 weeks ago, I was single digit subscribers. Just doing it because I enjoy it, and I do. And now I don't know what happened. I mean, I did a couple Bengals streams, and I know that's fairly popular right now because, hey, the Bengals are good, or at least good enough to talk about, and that's great. I talk about the Bengals because I'm a Bengals fan, so I'm glad other people like it. Um, but I'm over 700 subscribers, and in a shockingly short period of time. So I want to say thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart. Um, I do intend to keep doing this. I am going to Bengal stream, Stripe stream. What about to be number 4? Yeah. Sometime I don't know. I do it before the game on Sunday, but it might be a Saturday thing, which I hate doing that. But I'd rather get it done on a Thursday or Friday. But this week we just got things going on, and that's okay. So, um, but thank you so much, and obviously, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe. Make sure you click the little bell icon next to subscribe, and that way you can set it up so that you get notifications. I try to plan these live streams out, and then if I have anything specific like this one, I'll probably clip it down into the 2 videos for Werewolf by Night and Smile, and just put those on the main, just as a regular video, as opposed to a live stream. I don't do much editing because that's a lot of time. Maybe if I get to the point where I can do this more and I can devote more time to it, I would be happy to. So, but thank you so much. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. Please share. If you are subscribed, please share. Um, Share it out, and let other people know that I'm doing this, and hopefully they like it too. And obviously, I plan to keep doing it. Working on my background, and like I said, I'd love to park my spaceship here sometime soon. It's a weird looking spaceship, not gonna lie. And nobody's. I mean, look, right there. Nobody's driving. It's very unsafe. So, but yeah, yeah. I'm just blown away. I'm really. I woke up one morning and I just saw like, I saw like triple digits out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, well, something caught. Something got traction, and yeah, I was gonna do it regardless, but it is a lot nicer when you got people that I guess like seeing it and like hearing it. And then of course comments. Um, you can comment on this if the stream is over. It'll still go up. You can still comment on it. I believe. And if you want to private message me on the YouTube channel, I think about 24 hours or 36 hours later, it should show up on the Rumble channel. I have a basically um, I have it set up to whatever I do on YouTube, it'll pick it up onto the Rumble channel. And then of course the Facebook page. That's a good way to reach out to me. You can just straight reach out to me, or you can private message me on Facebook, or you can reach out to me through my email address, wayofthedadpodcast@gmail.com, and that goes direct. But yeah, thank you so much, and looking forward to doing this again. I'll be doing it again soon. I got some things I'm going to talk about that'll definitely be a little less positive, a little more critical. But I am looking. I've got a few other things that I might want to talk about coming up soon. Movie stuff that actually are good and I like them, and because those, I don't know, doesn't seem like there's a lot of that these days. So, thank you so much, and until next time.